president of peace? How Donald Trump's claims to have ended 8 wars in his second term fall apart. We all know that it's nonsense. We all know that Trump did not actually finish 8 wars. But what I want to do now is actually go point by point, conflict by conflict, and see just what it means in reality when Trump says claims to have ended 8 wars. There's a very boastful statement by him in video form here as usual. Let's listen to it.
I don't care about all that stuff. I just care about saving lives. But this will be number 9. But every time I solve one, they said, sir, if you solve one more, you're going to be known as a peacekeeper. So to the best of my knowledge, we've never had a president that solved one war.
We've never had a president that solved one war. Never, ever. Not... Okay. Who solved the U.S. Civil War then? Arguably, did the United States not have a hand in ending World War I and World War II? Is Donald Trump saying that the U.S. presidents had no hand in ending world wars? No American in history has ended a single war.
Not one war. Bush started a war. A lot of them start wars, but they don't solve the wars. They don't settle them. And especially when they have nothing to do with us. I sell almost, I guess, just about all of these wars had nothing to do with us.
I settle all of the wars. Keep that in mind, that he says he solves all of the wars.
Saved tens of millions of lives.
Yes, hundreds of billions of lives. Okay, so that's the statement, the very famous statement by Trump. I solved 8 wars. This is one's going to be the 9th. He also always says that he thought Ukraine would be the easiest one to solve, but it proves to be a little bit more complicated. Donald Trump tied up his first year back in the White House with a flurry of dramatic foreign policy moves, forcing regime change in Venezuela, threatening Iran. Okay, we know. Okay, we know. You don't have to repeat it to us once again, okay? Forcing regime change in Venezuela, threatening Iran with airstrikes, and fracturing vital relationship with NATO allies over a plan to annex Greenland, which is a thing that we're also going to be talking about more in detail soon. But for now, let's focus on these 8 conflicts that he supposedly has ended, and then we can move on to his other unhinged endeavors. But despite the aggressive maneuvering, the US president insists he is a peacemaker. Although, as we speak, that is actually no longer the case, as we will see later. He used to insist that he is a peacemaker, but now he is starting to see that the peacemaker angle is not exactly working, and he is moving away from it. You'll see. Mr. Trump began his second term last January with a promise to end Russia's war on Ukraine within a day, 24 hours. He actually also promised to end it before taking office. That was what he was saying during his campaign. Very famously, he said, it started with him saying that he will finish the war before even taking office if he wins the presidency. And then he started talking about the 24 hours thing, a couple of weeks. It kept changing. That conflict is still very much in progress a year later, despite repeated US brokered peace talks, which basically amounted to nothing. Nevertheless, in recent months, Mr. Trump has taken to claiming he has ended 8 wars since returning to office, and stated he can't think of anybody in history that should get the Nobel Prize more than he. okay? Can't think of anybody in history that should get the Nobel Prize more than me. I mean, technically speaking, he has the physical copy of the Peace Prize now because the Venezuelan opposition leader has given it to him. So, which brings me to a very funny meme. Okay, I'm gonna show it to you because this is a bit comical. This is too comical for me not to show you. Okay, look at this. Okay, I feel like this is funny enough for me to show you. Speaking of Nobel Peace Prizes, look at this. This is about trans people. The United States will not let men steal trophies from women. Okay?
The United States will not let men steal trophies from women.
Yesterday, you accepted Maria Machado's Nobel Prize medal. What do you intend to do with it, and why would you want someone else's Nobel Prize?
Well, she offered it to me. I thought it was very nice. She said, you know, you've ended 8 wars, and nobody deserves this prize more than in history. The United States will not let men steal trophies from women.
There you go. I thought that was a bit funny. Okay. Maybe it's just my sense of humor. But I thought that was a nice little touch. The United States will not allow men to steal trophies from women. The 8 wars that my administration has ended in 8 months, there's never been anything like that, Mr. Trump bragged in late October during a signing ceremony to end a conflict between Cambodia and Thailand. We're averaging one a month. It's like, I shouldn't say it's a hobby because it's so much more serious, but it's something I'm good at and something I love to do. I should not say that ending wars is a hobby of mine. The most childish, ego-driven, moronic dude became the president of the most powerful country in the world. Below, the Independent looks at whether Mr. Trump's self-professed list of achievements stands up to scrutiny. Spoiler alert, it absolutely does not. Israel and Hamas, hundreds dead since US ceasefire deal. In October 2025, the Trump administration managed to broker a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas after 2 years of deadly conflict sparked by the militant group attack on October 7, 2023. Some 1,200 people were killed in the attack and around 250 were taken hostage. Gazan authorities say more than 71,000 Palestinians were killed in the 2-year Israeli assault on the Strip that followed. As part of the US brokered ceasefire, Mr. Trump secured the release of the last living hostages, and all but one of the bodies of the deceased have been returned. Everybody's happy, he said in October, as he took a victory lap in the Israeli parliament to rapturous applause. This took 3,000 years to get to this point. Can you believe it? And it's going to hold up too. 3,000 years. Fuck me, man. The illiterate are in the reins of power. However, with hundreds dead since the deal came into effect, many have claimed it is a ceasefire in name only. Yeah. If Israel just bombs Gaza every single day or something like that, then how is it a ceasefire? How is it a conflict that's been resolved? And then there is also the issue of Israel going into the West Bank. Fighting on the ground has reduced, but Palestinians continue to be killed over ceasefire violations alleged by Israel. More than 400 Palestinians and 3 Israeli soldiers have been reported killed since the ceasefire took effect. The UN said in January 2026 that more than 100 children are among the dead, including victims of drone and quadcopter attacks. So that conflict has not been solved, not by a long shot. The US announced in January it was pressing on with the second phase of its plan to end the conflict for good, with a new government for Gaza and demilitarization of Hamas. Hamas has not yet agreed to those terms and has regrouped since the ceasefire. And there is a talk of a peace council that Trump is putting together when it comes to this topic. And Putin is invited to be a member of it. Days after the Phase 2 announcement, Bloomberg reported that Mr. Trump wants countries to pay $1 billion to join the Peace Board. Yes, that's the Peace Council that I've alluded to, the Peace Board. The members have to pay $1 billion as an entry fee, although many countries have already flatly refused to join this board. Among them, France. Emmanuel Macron has already announced that he will not be joining this farce of a peace board. The president has also made it clear that he sees Gaza as a potential investment opportunity, with claims it could be turned into a Riviera despite decades of deadly conflict. You know, the AI video that has been floating around that everybody laughed at. Just do a massive ethnic cleansing. Okay, just do a little bit of an ethnic cleansing, get rid of all those pesky Palestinians, and turn the Gaza Strip into a resort. That's the plan for peace. So that's conflict number 1 that has not been resolved. 1 out of 8. Cambodia and Thailand, fighting resumes weeks after ceasefire. Border disputes have long caused tensions between Thailand and neighboring Cambodia. The competing claims stem largely from a 1907 map drawn by French colonial rulers, because a lot of conflicts around the world have their roots in colonialism, unsurprisingly. The map was drawn to separate the two countries. Conflict erupted in May 2025 when the two countries' armed forces fired at each other in relatively small no-man land claimed by both countries. Weeks of clashes followed, with dozens killed and nearly 1 million people reportedly displaced. So it's a pretty big deal. Officials from both countries credited Mr. Trump with pushing them to a ceasefire. In July, Mr. Trump said he warned Thai and Cambodian leaders that the US would not move forward with trade agreements if hostilities continued, and maybe even threatened them with sanctions. Well, not with sanctions or whatever, with tariffs. Maybe even threatened them with tariffs. A more detailed October agreement followed, and under Mr. Trump's pressure, heavy fighting again broke out in early December before a new ceasefire was signed on the 27th of December. Up to 4,000 Cambodian families are still unable to return to their homes along the disputed border because of Thai incursions, and Cambodian Foreign Minister Prak Sokhon said in January. So, not exactly resolved, this conflict as well. So that's 2 out of 8 conflicts not exactly resolved. India and Pakistan, not a full-blown war. So this one's not even a war. So it was not a resolved war. Conflict erupted between India and Pakistan in May, with both sides exchanging gunfire across the line of control following a terrorist attack in Indian-controlled Kashmir. Mr. Trump said the U.S. brokered a ceasefire to end the hostilities within a matter of days. He said that came about in part because he offered trade concessions, because, of course, it's all about trade concessions. It's all about those tariffs. Trump controls the world through tariffs. Pakistan thanked Mr. Trump, but India denied his claims, saying they never had a conversation about trade in the context of the ceasefire. Evelyn Farkas, executive director of Arizona State University's McCain Institute, said the US might deserve some credit for ending the conflict, but told the Associated Press, "I'm not sure whether you would define that as a full-blown war." So that's 3 out of 8 conflicts that he has not exactly resolved. Rwanda and the DRC, fighting continues despite ceasefire. So not resolved. I don't even want to read the whole bit. Fighting continues, that's not resolved. Armenia, Azerbaijan, progress but more to be done. So not resolved. Egypt and Ethiopia, tensions but not a war. So doesn't count. Serbia and Kosovo, lack of progress on first term deal. So not resolved. Israel and Iran, renewed threats as protests grow, so not resolved. So it seems like he has actually not resolved any of the conflicts that he brags about resolving. So what are we even talking about? What peace? Nobel Peace Prize. What Nobel Peace Prize? But wait. Okay. So now we know. Okay. Now we know that Trump has actually not resolved any of those conflicts. Okay. And now let's move on to the insane, unhinged thing that he has done. All right? And that is... Oh, it's not loading. There you go. He wrote a letter to Norway about... Well, let's just take any tweet about it and let's read the letter. Because this is truly fascinating. This truly is fascinating what Trump has done. The White House. This is a letter by Donald Trump to Norway regarding the 8 conflicts that he has ended, the Peace Prize, and his position on the world stage as a peacemaker. Okay. Dear Jonas, okay? Because again, Norway's Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre has acknowledged Trump's letter is real. The letter reportedly ties Norway's Nobel Peace Prize decision to Greenland, questions Denmark's right of ownership, and declares the world isn't secure unless the US has complete total control of Greenland. Let's read the letter. Let's just read it. Dear Jonas, considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars, plus, which, first of all, Norway does not give out Nobel Peace Prizes. The Nobel Peace Prize Committee does that, and it is not connected to the Norway government, okay? It is not connected to the Norwegian government. So it is saying that Norway has decided that his country has decided not to give him the Nobel Peace Prize is a nonsensical statement, because that, again, that prize is given out by a Nobel Peace Prize Committee, okay, that is completely independent from the Norwegian government. Second of all, he has not stopped 8 wars plus, okay? He has absolutely not ended 8 wars. We already went through each conflict. He has not ended actually any. He has not resolved any of the 8 conflicts that he claims to have resolved. So, considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars plus, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace. So there we go. He is moving away from the rhetoric of being the peacemaker. You did not give me my prize. So, you know what? I no longer feel like a peacemaker. I know I don't give a shit about peace anymore. even though, by the way, he has been given that prize, that Nobel Peace Prize, by the actual person that got it. Because that's how Trump operates, even though the committee has said that that could not be done. So I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, although it will always be predominant, but can now think about, it will always be predominant, but can now think about what is good and proper for the United States of America. Denmark cannot protect that land from Russia or China. And why do they have a right of ownership anyway? There are no written documents. It's only that a boat landed there hundreds of years ago, but we had the boats landing there also. There you go. Why is Denmark in charge of Greenland anyway? They just landed a boat there. We landed a boat there as well. Also, Denmark cannot protect the land from Russia and China. Okay. Denmark is in NATO, okay? The United States is also in NATO. The United States has troops in Greenland. Greenland is not in any danger of being attacked by Russia or China. In fact, China has issued a very, very public statement, okay? China has issued a statement saying, please stop fear-mongering about us attacking Greenland. Please stop using us as an excuse to invade Greenland. Like, China became a little bit pissed off with the whole China's about to take over Greenland. It is said, no, we're not. Stop talking about us as if we were. Just don't use us as your little excuse. I have done more for NATO than any other person since its founding. Yeah, by trying actively to destroy it. Even before he became president, he undermined NATO. He said that he would not give a damn if Russia invaded any country that would not pay enough. He has alluded to the US leaving NATO even before he became president. Yeah, he has done more than any other person since its founding to destroy it. And he may very well still succeed, by the way. He may still destroy NATO. So NATO should do something for the United States. I have done more for NATO than any other person since its founding, and now NATO should do something for the United States. The United States is the only country in the history of NATO that has benefited from its Article 5. When the United States called for Article 5, the rest of the NATO countries responded. NATO has already done something for the United States, but I guess Trump has already forgotten about it. The world is not secure unless we have complete and total control of Greenland. Thank you, President Donald J. Trump. Now tell me that this is not crazy. Tell me that this is not unhinged. Tell me that this is not basically in line with the whole philosophy of we are now dividing the world into spheres of influence and Greenland is ours, up for grabs. Nobody cares about international law. Nobody cares about international relations in the sense of having multinational military agreements. Nobody cares about that. NATO is worthless, according to Trump. If Trump believes that China or Russia would just enter Greenland, then what Trump is basically saying is that the NATO deterrence is worth nothing. NATO is worth zero as a deterrent from invasion if Trump believes that China or Greenland would, if China or Russia would enter Greenland. And that makes me ask once again, if NATO is so worthless, if NATO will not stop Russia from invading and taking over a piece of territory, then why is the United States so opposed to Ukraine entering NATO? If NATO is so worthless, then why would it matter if Ukraine is in NATO or not? I mean, Russia would enter anyway, right? Russia would take over Ukraine anyway, NATO or not. since that seems to be the case for Greenland, right? Russia or China could take over any day, and NATO would not stop it in any way. NATO is not a deterrent. Even, it seems, the United States military stationing in Greenland would not be a deterrent for Russia or China to just take it over. The only way to deter any invasion is for the United States to have ownership over Greenland. So even without destroying the concept of NATO, Trump is already all but saying that the NATO is worthless as a military alliance. It reads like a meme. It's not. PBS Nick Schifrin reported the text was obtained from multiple officials and circulated by NSC staff to European ambassadors. This is a serious letter from a world leader, from the leader of the most powerful country in the world. A person that has deluded himself into, I don't know if he even believes his own hype, if he actually believes that he has ended those 8 conflicts. I don't know what he is trying to accomplish by destroying NATO. I have no idea why he pushes so much into creating a might makes right world order in which the world will be just divided neatly into spheres of influence of great powers. Trump is a very old man, 79 years old, if memory serves. He's trying to build some kind of legacy for himself, and that legacy is going to screw us all over. Not to mention that's his international, that's his foreign policy, but wait till we get to his domestic policy. Also, he has started a peace board, but I don't want to get to that yet, because that is what I want to talk about next. We're going full on Greenland. Trump threatens tariffs on European allies backing Greenland's sovereignty, because Europe is not happy with Trump just threatening a NATO and European ally. Most European countries are not happy about that. Hungary and Slovakia are actually backing Trump on Greenland. That's also a very important fact to remember, that Europe is not united on these topics. There is very much division within Europe itself, and countries such as Hungary, Viktor Orban's Hungary, and Fico's Slovakia are very much on board with Trump, are very much supporting Trump in his bid to control the entirety of Greenland. But a lot of other European countries, Poland among them, are not very happy with I almost said Russia, with Trump wanting to take over Greenland. And even some troops have been sent to Greenland, which are supposed to work as some kind of deterrence from Trump deciding to invade. And Trump has threatened that I think 25% increase in tariff will be placed on all of the countries that have decided to back Greenland's sovereignty, which is a direct threat against the European Union, which basically undermines any and all trade relations that the United States has with Europe, and is just an insane thing to do. It is just an insane thing to do.
We need Greenland.
U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening tariffs on key allies once again, this time over Greenland. On Saturday, Trump targeted 80 European countries that sent troops to Greenland with a 10% tariff starting February 1st, which could more than double to 25% in June.
Actually, let's read the Truth Social post by Trump regarding this. Like, this article is, this video is showing us the Truth Social. It is not being read in full. Let's read it in full, okay? I actually happen to have it also up, so let's get it. Let's get it up. Okay. Donald Trump, we have subsided Denmark. Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Denmark post. Where is it? Where is it? Oh man, I thought I had it on the ready. We have subsidized Denmark. Oh, there we go. We have it. But I want a more clear version of it. Where is it? Why is it so small? Isn't there a bigger version? Okay, maybe we have subsidized Denmark. Donald Trump post. Oh, there you go. I want to see the post. Okay, there you go. I have it now. Thank you. Sorry for the wait. There you go. We have subsidized Denmark and all of the countries of the European Union and others for many years by not charging them tariffs, which is an insane thing to say, okay? That is not what tariffs are for. That is not what that is not what tariff as a tool has been historically used for. Not putting tariffs on countries is not subsidizing countries. That is not what the word subsidize means as well either. Or any other forms of remuneration. Now, after centuries of not tariffing Europe, now, after centuries, it is time for Denmark to give back. World peace to give back. World peace is at stake. China and Russia want Greenland. There's no evidence of China or Russia wanting Greenland, by the way. It's just a made-up rhetoric. Like, China got pissed off, as I said before. China got pissed off by it and just openly said, yeah, stop using us as an excuse, okay? So China and Russia want Greenland, and again, NATO is treated as a non-deterrent. It doesn't matter if Greenland is in NATO. It just doesn't matter. And there is not a thing that Denmark can do about it. Denmark is a NATO member, okay? Not on its own, but NATO is a NATO member. So it's not just Denmark that would be doing something about it. It would be the entirety of NATO. They currently have 2 dog sleds as protection, one added recently. Only the United States of America under President Donald J. Trump can play in this game. and very successfully at that. Nobody will touch this sacred piece of land, especially since the national security of the United States and the world at large is at stake. Greenland is protected by NATO. Okay, must I repeat this time and time again like a broken record? Again, he is basically saying that NATO is a worthless alliance that will not protect anybody, which I have to ask, why does the United States have a problem with Ukraine joining NATO if NATO is such a worthless alliance that would not protect Greenland against Russia? Vladimir says, if you still wonder about what you experienced, hold on a moment. On top of everything else, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Finland have journeyed to Greenland for purposes unknown. This is a very dangerous situation. This is a very dangerous situation for the safety, security, and survival of our planet. What the fuck? Again, on top of everything else, now we're seeing even more insane rambling. Convenient Estelle says, well, since the US is in NATO and it wouldn't do anything if Greenland got invaded, clearly they should invade. True. Incub says, I cannot imagine him not being high as fuck while typing that. Just, this is insane. On top of everything else, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Finland have journeyed to Greenland for purposes unknown. This is a very dangerous situation for the safety, security, and survival of our planet. These countries who are playing this very dangerous game have put a level of risk in play that is not tenable or sustainable. Therefore, it is imperative that in order to protect global peace and security, strong measures must be taken so that this potentially perilous situation end quickly. What is the perilous situation? Who is threatening Greenland? Okay, is it China? Is it Russia? Is it Europe? Is Europe threatening Greenland? Who is the threat to Greenland? What is the perilous situation exactly? What are we talking about? Again, is Greenland not a part of NATO? Is it not under the NATO security umbrella? And without question, starting on February 1st, 2026, all of the above-mentioned countries, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, and the Netherlands and Finland will be charged a 10% tariff on any and all goods sent to the United States of America. On June 1st, 2026, the tariff will be increased to 25%. So just, I guess Trump has decided that he will not just tank NATO over Greenland. He will also tank trade with Europe over Greenland. Because, trade with Greenland is so important for, the world not ending. This tariff will be due and payable until such time as a deal is reached for the complete and total purchase of Greenland. We get Greenland or we will screw everybody. We will screw everyone. We will go scorched earth and destroy all the military alliances, and we will just destroy trade with Europe unless we get what we want. Is basically what he is saying here. And he is, again, undermining the validity of NATO itself by saying that Greenland is in danger of being taken over by China or Russia. The United States has been trying to do this transaction for over 150 years. Many presidents have tried, and for good reason, but Denmark has always refused. Now, because of the Golden Dome and modern-day weapon systems, both offensive and defensive, the need to acquire is especially important. Why? Why is it especially important? Why is it important for the United States to acquire Greenland if it's part of NATO, if it's part of a broader security military alliance? Why is it important for, it's resources. It's rare earths, it's resources. That's why. Hundreds of billions of dollars are currently being spent on security programs having to do with the dome, including for the possible protection of Canada. And this very brilliant but highly complex system can only work at its maximum potential and efficiency because of angles, mets, and bounds. If this land is included in it, it already is included in it. It is included in it via the NATO Security Alliance. The United States already has troops in Greenland. Greenland is already included in any security arrangement. Convenient Estelle says it's not even rare earth because they could get those if they wanted. I mean, but not the way that Trump wants it. The United States of America is immediately open to negotiation with Denmark and or any of these countries that have put so much at risk. Despite, but these are, they could set up deeds, but then Trump would say, but what if something happens like in Venezuela when Greenland will just confiscate and steal the deeds from the United States people? There you go. The United States of America is immediately open to negotiation with Denmark and or any of these countries that have put so much at risk. Despite all that we have done for them. What have you done? What have you done for them? Including maximum protection over so many decades. Thank you for your attention and to this matter. So, this is it. You will be punished with tariffs. We will get Greenland, whether you like it or not. NATO is a worthless alliance that will not protect Greenland from Russia or China. That is basically what is being said.
The targeted countries include EU members France, Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, and the Netherlands, along with non-EU member states Norway and the UK. But such a move by the Trump administration may prove ineffective as the EU's internal free trade zone offers companies opportunities to bypass tariffs.
If you're going to take into account a big German car manufacturer, then...
So basically, the only thing that will suffer from this is America's trade with Europe. Once again, Trump is making America great again by screwing over America.
And which has companies registered in Poland, Hungary, then basically they can re-export the produce through Poland or Hungary.
Trump's tariffs also face uncertainty at home, where the Supreme Court could soon rule on their legality.
When this ruling is going to be not favorable to the White House, then the American government is going to find it more difficult for them to implement additional new tariffs.
If implemented, the latest tariffs could affect a wide range of products and industries, including an already beleaguered European auto sector. European stocks, which had enjoyed a record-setting run in recent months, tumbled on Monday on the news of more potential disruption to transatlantic trade.
And between the United States and Europe, well, we have, of course, a very large economic exchange. And that economic exchange is, at the aggregate level, highly advantageous to both sides. And the access to the US market is very important also for Europe.
EU policymakers made their views on the tariffs clear.
As I think we both agree, we're living through uncharted territories. We've never seen this before. An ally,
Yeah, we've never seen a situation in which an unhinged, old, dying guy is in charge of the most powerful country in the world and just decides that his biggest enemies are his biggest allies and that his biggest historical enemies are now his biggest friends, like Vladimir Putin, for example.
friend of 250 years, is considering using tariffs. We don't like tariffs, but certainly we don't like using tariffs as a geopolitical weapon.
Retaliatory measures are already being prepped, including tariffs of up to 93 billion euros and deployment of the EU's so-called anti-coercion instrument, which could limit US companies' access to the bloc's common market.
So there you go. It's just jeopardizing trade for no reason.
The European Union has tools at its disposal and is prepared to respond because we will do everything necessary to protect EU economic interests.
What seemed like a brief period of calm in transatlantic trade relations could unravel again over Greenland. Maciej Wilowski for TVP World.
And do I even have to say that Russia is very happy with this development? Do I even have to say it? Or is it? Like, Russia is extremely happy with this development. Or is it? Russia gleeful at Trump split over Greenland, but also has concerns. Like, why would Russia not be happy over this development? Like, more division in the West, it means that Russia has even bigger chances in Ukraine. Of course they would be happy over this. Like, again, they've been hoping this sort of thing would happen. They've been praying to the high heavens that this sort of development would happen. That is all that they wished for when they endorsed President Donald Trump's presidency. Moscow, January 19th. Russia is watching with glee as US President Donald Trump's drive to acquire Greenland widens splits with Europe, even though his moves could have serious security ramifications for Moscow, which covets its own presence in the Arctic. The Kremlin said Trump would go down in history if he took control of Greenland, an autonomous Danish territory. President Vladimir Putin's special envoy Kirill Dmitriev hailed the collapse of the transatlantic union. Former President Dmitry Medvedev joked about Europe getting poorer. Criticism of Trump over Greenland has been notably absent at a time when Russia wants to keep him outside to ensure any end of the war in Ukraine is on Moscow's any end to the war in Ukraine is on Moscow's terms, even though traditional Russian allies Venezuela and Iran are also in his crosshairs. There are international experts who believe that by resolving the issues of Greenland's incorporation, Trump will certainly go down in history, and not only in the history of the United States, but also in world history, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said on Monday. And that is basically what Trump also very much wants. He wants to go down in history because for Trump, a lot of what he does is about his ego. It's hard not to agree with these experts. The light over Europe's dilemma. The Daily Moskovsky Komsomolets said, "It was a pleasure to watch Europe being at a total loss. After Trump said he would put rising tariffs on goods imported from some European countries until the United States is allowed to buy Greenland. Make America great again. Make Denmark small again. Make Europe poor again. Has this idea finally sunk in, dimwits?" said Medvedev, who is now deputy chairman on Russia's Security Council. Dmitriev, who is involved in talks with the US on the war in Ukraine, mocked European leaders in posts on social media. Collapse of the transatlantic union, finally something actually worth discussing in Davos, said Dmitriev, who is due to meet US envoys on Ukraine during the World Economic Forum in Swiss resort this week. Dmitriev said on X that Putin understands the US. Dmitriev said on X that Putin understands the US rationale on Greenland, linking to a speech in which Putin said US designs on Greenland had deep historical roots. There you go. This is so convenient for Russia. Look, we have our deep historical roots in Ukraine. Our invasion of Ukraine has its deep historical roots. And now the United States operation in Denmark has its own deep historical roots. So can we just each stay out of each other's way, keep to our own sphere of influence, and resolve our deep historical root conflicts? I think it's pretty transparent what sort of narrative Vladimir Putin is trying to build with this deep historical roots thing. Russian commentators said Trump's behavior was putting unprecedented strain on NATO military alliance, Moscow's longtime foe, and could cause economic and diplomatic pain for the European Union and Britain, seen by Moscow as obstacles to Russia having its way on Ukraine. An article in Rossiyskaya Gazeta, the Russian government's official newspaper, asked whether differences over Greenland would spell the end of NATO. And in my opinion, it very much will. I'm sorry, but a NATO member invading another NATO member, NATO is not the Warsaw Pact, even though it's becoming increasingly like so. As much as the Warsaw Pact was built on the idea that if any of the members falls out of line, the other members would invade, NATO has not been built on such an idea, so NATO would not survive it. Sergei Markov, a former Kremlin advisor, said Moscow should help Trump advance his ambitions because almost all of Trump's enemies are also Russia's enemies. It would certainly be a boon to Russia if NATO as a concept was utterly destroyed. It would definitely be advantageous for Russia. A delicate line for Moscow. For all its satisfaction, Moscow is treading a delicate line as Trump moves could have an impact on Moscow's own ambitions in the Arctic, which is rich in natural resources and also seen by Russia as strategically important. Russia has bridled at Trump's suggestion that Moscow poses a threat to Greenland, part of his rationale for wanting US control on the island, while avoiding mentioning his name in its criticism. The foreign ministry said last week it was unacceptable for the West to continue accusing Russia and China of being a threat to Greenland. But Ukraine is a higher priority to Russia than Greenland, where the US already has a military presence. A transatlantic rift over Greenland that involves countries that have financed and armed Kyiv could work in Russia's favor, possibly seeping into other policy areas and overshadowing events in Ukraine. Some Russian commentators have suggested Trump's behavior is ushering in a new world order without rules, something that might benefit Moscow. So there you go. Throw away international law, throw away international rules-based order, in with might makes right, in with spheres of influence, and we might have to get used to it. Others, though, have sounded the alarm over the unpredictability of his behavior, citing the recent seizure of Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro. They have also cautioned that Trump, who says the US will reassert its dominance in the Western Hemisphere, has not shown a readiness for other nations to have their own spheres of influence. Russia can only have its own sphere of influence through strength, said Markov. So yeah, this is basically where we are headed to. We're headed into a world where the international law is treated as a joke or done away with completely. International rules-based order is an afterthought, and each of the 4 big countries would have their own sphere of influence to rule over. The United States, Russia, China, and India, I suppose. That would be how that would go.